Hello, good morning. Hello.
Good
Hello,
morning,
good
sir.
morning. Anybody online?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, good morning. Shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Today we will be discussing about two of the common conditions of the anal region. So we have already discussed the fissure, the painful condition, the hemorrhoids, which causes bleeding and terribly to the patient, which will terrify the patient. And today we will discuss one of the most disgusting condition of the anal region. It is a recurrent, disgusting condition which persists for a long time and causes a lot of difficulty to the patient. That is anorectal abscess and anorectal fistula. Fistula is one condition which is difficult to treat, which will recur most often and cause a lot of trouble to the patient. It is preceded by anorectal abscess, which is a transient, painful condition. How this abscess occurs on this region? There are two ways. One is it could be a part of the similar to the abscess anywhere, cutaneous and subcutaneous abscess anywhere, like boils, subcutaneous infections, all those things. But more specific to this anatomical region particularly is infection of the anal gland. In the anatomy, we have studied the intermuscular plane, the space, potential space between the internal and external sphincter, where the gland, anal gland is present. 15 to 20 are present all around the anal canal. They are present at a lower level, and the duct which drains this gland discharges at a higher level into the anal crypts. So that is one anatomical point of importance. In animals, in quadrupeds, so the relative position of this gland will be at a higher level and the opening will be at a lower level in horizontal position. Because the man has acquired the erect position, the gland substance has shifted to a lower level, leading to improper drainage. Of course, it may be assisted by the contraction of the sphincters. But when it is infected and pus forms in the anal gland, to discharge this pus, the duct will be at a higher level. So improper drainage will be there. Therefore, the pus tries to seek a path of least resistance into the other anatomical regions. This is the point of importance why this particular abscess causes a fistula, a tract, which develops a tract for persistent, continuous or intermittent discharge of pus. This is the principle of the anorectal abscess and anal fistula. So these are the places in the anal region where you can see the abscess. It is nothing but an acute sepsis in the region of the anus. This can be sepsis by chance, like anywhere in the body, simple boils, skin appendage infections, etc. Specific to this region is sepsis from the anorectum and anal glands. This is more important. Infection of the anal gland is more important. This is found to be more common in men. This is sepsis unrelated to the anal gland can be a submucosal abscess following sclerotherapy for hemorrhoids, mucocutaneous or marginal abscess resulting from infected hematoma, perianal hematoma. Foreign body trauma in the ischiorectal abscess resulting in abscess. Pelvirectal sepsis originating in the pelvic disease like appendicitis, like tubo-ovarian infections, like diverticulitis on sigmoid colon, or any pus coming from above, perforation, peritonitis. If it gets collected in the deep in the pelvis, it may erode the peritoneum and enter these perineal spaces. Or rectal disease like neoplasm, Crohn's disease, diabetes, AIDS disease, all these conditions may cause an abscess in this region also, along with the other regions of the body. We are not interested in this thing, but we are interested in anal gland infection, intersphincteric anal gland infection. This is also called as or coined as cryptoglandular theory. Crypto means hidden. The glands are hidden deep inside in the anatomical planes. So when they get infected, though you cannot see the gland, they present as a painful inflammatory region or an abscess. The pus tracks along the path of least resistance. It can spread caudally, resulting in perianal abscess. It can descend down, come down, presenting in the perianal region, margin of the anal canal. It can go laterally into the ischiorectal fossa and form an ischiorectal abscess. It can ascend superiorly into the supralevator intermuscular or pararectal abscess. It can go into the pelvis. The pelvic abscess can come down, or anal gland infection can ascend up into the pelvis. And it can spread circumferentially. Infection on one side can spread to the opposite side also. Right side infection can spread to the left. It can track behind the anal canal, behind the rectum, and involve the opposite spaces also. This typically results in horseshoe fistula. Horseshoe fistula occurs when the infection tracks behind the anal canal to the opposite side and develops openings on either side of the anal canal. Horseshoe fistulas can develop. So this is the disposition of the anal gland. Gland is at a lower point, opening is at a higher point. If you rotate this picture horizontally, the gland will be at a higher point, discharge point will be at a lower point. Because of the erect position, their positions has been altered and the drainage has become non-dependent. So this is the picture showing tracking of the pus. This is the place of the anal gland. It got infected. It can travel medially into submucous plane, laterally into ischiorectal fossa, can come down into the perianal region also. It can go up into the pelvirectal tissues. These are the three planes where the circumferential spread occurs. From one side, the pus tracks to the opposite side. This can happen in the lower part of the anal canal at the dentate region through the intersphincteric plane. This can happen through the ischiorectal abscess, ischiorectal fossa of either side. Or it can happen in the pelvic region pararectally. So in these three places, the pus can travel to the opposite side and infect the opposite spaces also. So the pus originating here can come down, can go up medially, laterally, and circumferentially. Depending upon the spread, localization of the pus, 4 types of anorectal abscesses are described. One is perianal region, at the margin of the anal canal, among the fibers of the divided fibers of the longitudinal muscle, among the fibers of the anus cutis muscle. So this is at the margin of the anal canal, perianal abscess, more common presentation. Second one is outside the external sphincter, ischiorectal fossa. This is an empty space filled with fat, which will allow the distension of the rectum, provide space for the distension of the rectum, through the apex of which the nerves and the vessels will come from the buttock region to the anal canal. From the pelvis, they come out of the pelvis underneath the gluteus maximus muscle, again re-enter into the perianal region. That happens through the ischiorectal fossa. So pus in this space is called as ischiorectal abscess. Or if it goes medially, it can result in submucous abscess. And pelvirectal abscess above the level of the levator anemus. This is the levator anemus. Above the level of the levator anemus. The clinical presentation of anorectal sepsis, commonest is the perianal abscess. This is confined by the external terminations of the longitudinal muscle. The short 2 to 3 day history is present, which causes increasingly severe, well-localized pain. Very severely painful, nodule present in the perianal region. When you examine, the palpable tender lump is seen or felt at the margin of the anal canal, and it will show the classical inflammatory signs. Second type of abscess is ischiorectal space infection laterally. This is a larger fat-filled space with low tissue tension. Because it is filled with fat which is compressible, so not much tension is present in the early stages. Patient will not attend to it, so it attains a large size. Until it is very large and has increased the tension in ischiorectal fossa, it will not cause much pain. So ischiorectal abscess presents with larger inflammatory masses and less well-localized symptoms, more constitutional upset and fever. Patient will have fever, tachycardia, and lassitude. All systemic symptoms of infection are more evident than the local problem. On examination, the buttock is diffusely swollen with widespread induration and deep tenderness. Because this is deeply situated, fluctuation is delayed. This is the one situation where you should not wait for the fluctuation to develop. By the time the fluctuation develops, there will be a lot of destruction of the tissues inside. So if you suspect pus here, or after 48 hours of antibiotic treatment, the inflammation is not coming down, it is not responding. And if you press on the inflamed area, a pitting edema is demonstrated. These are the signs of deep-seated pus. Signs of deep-seated pus. Then you can incise the area and drain the pus. You need not wait for the fluctuation to develop. So this is one such location. The other location is the parotid gland infection. There also, because of the tough parotid fascia, the fluctuation takes a lot of time for developing. By the time fluctuation develops, entire gland substance has been destroyed. So there also you should not wait for the fluctuation. If it is not responding quickly, you can raise the skin flap and drain the, make the holes in the deep fascia, parotid fascia, and drain it. Likewise, in square labs also, because it is deeply placed, it's a large space, it's a low tension area, fluctuation takes more time to develop. So you need not wait. If you doubt, you just aspirate or you just incise it. No problem. Another important location is pelvirectal sepsis. This is higherly placed. Patient complains of deep rectal pain, poorly localized pain. He says he has pain in the region. He cannot localize it. More systemic disturbances like fever, disturbed micturition, and nothing is seen on external examination. When you do rectal examination, digital rectal examination, there will be a tender induration at the levator muscle level. So deep inside, when your finger crosses the anorectal region, anorectal ring, AR ring, when it goes above into the lumen of the rectum, there you can feel an indurated area in cases of pelvirectal sepsis. So this picture shows you the locations of these abscesses. Supralevator pelvirectal abscess, submucous abscess, squarectal abscess, marginal or perianal abscess, intersphincter abscess in the original location. The differential diagnosis of this condition is abscesses connected with pilonidal sinus. If the abscess is in the perianal region, the posterior aspect, it can be confused with pilonidal sinus and abscess. In women, anteriorly placed abscesses are confused with Bartholin gland infections, Bartholin abscess. When Cowper's bulbourethral glands are seen in the same location, on either side of the mid-perineal point, where the corpus spongium is enlarged as the bulb of the penis. On either side of the midline, we have the Cowper's glands, which are present in the membranous perineal space between superficial and deep perineal membrane. The duct comes outside to drain into the urethra. So in men, Cowperitis, in women, Bartholinitis, in both sexes, pilonidal sinus and abscess cause confusion in diagnosing the anorectal abscess. Management is primarily surgical. Wherever there is pus, you have to drain it. Draining, let out the pus, which includes careful examination under anesthesia, along with sigmoidoscopy and proctoscopy, to rule out the secondary causes of abscess, like rectal growth or pelvic pathology presenting as perianal abscess. You must carefully examine the patient under anesthesia. Clinically, without anesthesia, patient may not cooperate because it's a very painful condition. So you have to take the anesthesia, examine it, confirm that there are no secondary causes, no dreadful causes, then plan for the treatment of the abscess. And adequate drainage of the pus must be done. The incision given must be adequate so that the pus drains out freely, so that the cavity remains empty at all times, so that the granulation will fill the cavity. If you give a small incision, the cavity will not be draining properly, it will not become dry, it continues to discharge for a long time. So healing time will be very prolonged. That's why perianal abscesses are treated by de-roofing method, not just incisional drainage like abscess anywhere. They are de-roofed. That means the skin covering the abscess, entire abscess is removed. They are marsupialized. Marsupialization means half of the cyst wall is excised to make it open widely. So they are de-roofed, they are marsupialized to allow adequate free drainage of the pus. Then only healing will proceed unhampered. So drainage is by de-roofing. So entire first you give a cruciate incision, all the skin flaps are excised. It looks like this. The entire roof of the covering of the viscorectal fossa is taken out. This is done by de-roofing is done for perianal abscesses and viscorectal abscess. Then the pus is collected and sent for culture and sensitivity. Culture and sensitivity. The tissue is taken from the wall of the abscess, sent for histopathological examination. HPE means histopathological examination. Then cavity is carefully curated. All the granulation tissue is curated out and searched for the fistula. So anorectal abscess is a predisposing preceding condition for fistula, and the closed fistula, closed external opening of fistula may present as an perianal abscess. We don't know whether it is a pure abscess or abscess resulting from closure of the fistula. So you have to search for the track of the fistula. How to find this? When you are creating the abscess cavity, at one point the granulation tissue will not be wiped out. So that is the point where the fistulous tract is present. And if a fistula is found, a loose draining ceton is appeared. A silk thread is passed through the fistulous tract and tied loosely, which will act as a drain. Then the cavity is irrigated, washed, and lightly packed. Antibiotics are given when there is surrounding cellulitis, our patient has got immunosuppression, and he is a known diabetic, etc. So antibiotics are not given routinely, but they are given when there is cellulitis or systemic symptoms. Patient is having decreased immunity because of so many reasons, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, AIDS, all those things, or a diabetic. In such situations, you have to give the antibiotics also. And you have sent the pus for culture and sensitivity. The report also will guide you. If the pus cultures skin type organisms like streptococci, etc., skin organisms are found, so there will not be a fistulous tract. If the pus shows gut flora like E. coli, Klebsiella, etc., then it suggests the fistulous tract is already present. We have to search for the fistulous tract. This shows the wide de-roofing of the viscorectal abscess. Management of supraelevator sepsis depends on its exact anatomy and location. You treat the underlying cause. If the appendicial, you treat the patient for appendix. Gynecological causes, you treat the cause. Crohn's disease, you treat with steroids. Malignancy, you take care of the malignancy. So that is the primary method of treating. And you can aspirate the pus or let out the pus into the rectum, not outside, but into the rectum. Now we will discuss about the anal fistula. This is not a dangerous condition, but this is most troublesome condition. Everyday patient has got wetting of the clothes, and it will be very discomfort and disgusting condition to the patient. Fistula in ano or anal fistula is a chronic abnormal communication which is lined by granulation tissue. Chronic abnormal communication lined by granulation tissue. By definition, fistula should be communicating with two surfaces. Here, internally it communicates with the anal canal or rectum. Externally, it communicates with the skin surface. This fistula, which runs outwards from the anorectal lumen, where the internal opening is present, to an external opening on the skin of the perineum or buttock or rarely there. Somewhere outside, it will have the external opening. The cause can be non-specific or idiopathic or cryptoglandular. That means it has arisen from the infection of the anal gland. Or it can be specific also. Non-specific cryptoglandular infection, or it can be specific. The specific causes are Crohn's disease, tuberculosis, lymphogranuloma venereum, actinomycosis, rectal duplication, foreign body, like fish bones. Fish bone will travel all along the gastrointestinal tract and it pierces the mucosa of the anal canal, enters into the squarectal fossa and causes infection and abscess there and malignant conditions. These are the specific causes which results in fistula. So these pictures will show the cryptoglandular organ clearly. Here it shows just information of the anal gland. So the pus has already formed there. It is trying to track medially, track upwards, track downwards. After rupture of this, already track has formed. This is the internal opening at the anal crypt dentate line level. This black one is the track. It has opened outside. This is the typical appearance of the fistula. Internal opening, the tract lined by granulation tissue, and external opening. Why it does not heal? Because of constant reinfection from the anal canal prevents spontaneous healing. Every day when the fecal matter passes through this way, the little enters into the internal opening and causes the infection, persistence of the infection. How this presents clinically? Non-specific fistulae are more common in men than in women. This is common in third, fourth, and fifth decades of life in elderly people, adult patients. It causes intermittent seropurulent discharge. Perianal discharge will be present, not much painful, but it will be wetting the clothes. Intermittent, few days it will be there, then few days it will not be present. When the external opening closes, then the tract gets filled up with pus, the tension in the cavity rises, and it becomes painful. So intermittently painful discharging condition suggests anal fistula. The pain increases on closure of the opening. The relief occurs when the pus discharges. Patient typically says, few days discharge will be present. When the discharge stops, pain starts. When the discharge stops, pain starts. After 3 to 4 days, again it ruptures, resulting in the release of the pus. Pain subsides. So patient will have only one thing, either the discharge or pain at a time. Discharge may be present or pain may be present, either of them at a time. And some people can complain passage of flatus or feces through the external opening suggestive rectal communication. So if the pelvirectal fistula, internal opening in the rectal, the gas as well as the fecal matter may pass through the fistula's opening. Classification of the fistulae. The world classification is depending on the location of the internal opening, high anal fistula, where internal opening is at or above the anorectal ring. Low anal fistula, it is below the anorectal ring. This is the simplest and clinical classification, high fistula and low fistula. The management of the low fistula and high fistula differs, so we have to identify where the internal opening is present. It can be classified as simple or complex fistula. Complex means it's a long standing, it has got side tracts, and the tracts include sphincter. They pass through the sphincters also, which make the management of the fistula more troublesome. The standard classification is subcutaneous fistula, submucous fistula, low anal, high anal, and pelvirectal. Low anal, high anal, and pelvirectal. High anal and pelvirectal goes to high anal fistula. Remaining three goes to the low anal fistula. Subcutaneous, submucous, low anal. Another classification of importance is Parkes classification. This is based on the centrality of intersphincteric anal gland sepsis. The internal opening is usually the dentate line. The relation of the primary tract to the external sphincter is taken as the parameter, and the sphincter, the fistulas are classified. They are classified as intersphincteric or transsphincteric fistulas. So here you can see type 1 is intersphincteric fistula. This is the anal gland. It has spread medially and down, resulting in a curved tract. Internal opening of the dentate line. The tract is in between the muscles. This is the external sphincter. In between the muscles and opening here, type 1. Intersphincteric. This is in between the internal and external sphincter. This is transsphincteric. The tract has traversed through the external sphincter also. Through the external sphincter also and has opened here. Transsphincteric. Intersphincteric, transsphincteric. These are the basic types. So how to identify these, whether it is intersphincteric, transsphincteric, clinically on examination? So if you observe this picture, this is the anal margin, this is the external opening, both are very near. Both are very near. Here, this is the anal margin, this is the external opening, they are far away. So you must see the distance between the external opening and the anal margin. If it is less than 1 inch, it could be intersphincteric fistula. If it is longer than 1 inch, it may be a transsphincteric fistula. Transsphincteric fistula. These are the special types. Type 3. This is also transsphincteric, but the tract has ascended up to the pelvis, up to the floor of the pelvis, and curved and descended into the sphincter fossa. Type 3, a curved tract is present. This is the type 4, pelvirectal, communicating with the rectum. This is very rare. So these two things are the primary things, intersphincteric and transsphincter. So here you can see transsphincteric intersphincter. This is the internal sphincter, external sphincter. The track is between these two muscles. Here, this has traversed the external sphincter muscle also, transsphincter. The commonest variety is intersphincteric fistula. This is the one. This is 45%. Do not cross the external sphincter, or even if it crosses the external sphincter, it causes only the lowermost part of the subcutaneous external sphincter. Lowermost part of the subcutaneous sphincter. Its more direct fistula runs directly from the internal to the external opening across the distal internal sphincter. Transsphincteric constitutes 40% of the cases. The primary tract crosses both internal and external sphincters. So it crosses both internal and external sphincter. It goes through the middle of the external sphincter. Opening will be well away from the anal margin. Then passes through the square fossa to reach the skin of the buttock. If the fistula is of long standing, it develops into secondary tracts, which can reach the roof of the square fossa, pass through the levatus to reach the pelvis, and spread circumferentially to cause what is called as horseshoe fistula. Horseshoe fistula. The circumferential spread of the circus through the intersphincteric plane, through the squarectal plane, through the pararectal plane. That already I have shown you the picture. This is the plane. Intersphincteric plane, squarectal plane, pararectal plane. How to assess this fistula? Should take the full medical history regarding obstetric causes, gastrointestinal causes, any surgery previously in the anal region, and continence of the person. Fecal continence. If there is incontinence there, you must identify. And do the proctosigmoidoscopy. Proctoscopy anyway, you will do it in the OP, but you have to go for the sigmoidoscopy to rule out any sinister causes above. And information about the sphincter strength and associated conditions must be sought from the patient. What are you supposed to examine at the clinical examination time? So the points to be noted when you are examining a case of anal fistula. Locate the site of the internal opening. Usually, it will be at the dentate line. The level will be at the dentate line, and usually it will be posteriorly situated, midline posteriorly. Or it can be anywhere along the circumference. More commonly, midline posteriorly will be located. How to locate this? So, by proctoscopic examination, you can see the signs of internal opening. A hypertrophied anal papillae will be seen at one place. It suggests the site of the internal opening. Or granulation tissue will be pouting at one point on the anoderm or anal mucosa. That is the place where the internal opening is present. You see. And when you do the digital rectal examination, you can feel a tender point of induration. Tender point of induration can be palpated on digital rectal examination. These are the signs to identify the internal opening. If it is not seen, then you have to go for investigations, transrectal or transanal ultrasound examination after injecting the hydrogen peroxide. Little amount of hydrogen peroxide is injected through the external opening. Then do the ultrasound examination. You can see the gas filled tract and internal opening. These are all the various things to with the internal opening. Or you can apply the Goodsell's rule while clinically examining to expect, to find, to search the internal opening. Then you must see the site of the external opening, where it is present. So if the external opening is closer to the anal opening, anal margin, it is an intersphincteric fistula. Away from the anal margin, transsphincteric fistula. If the external opening is posteriorly below the transanal line, if you draw a line through the middle of the anal canal, if it is posterior to that, the internal opening will be in the midline posteriorly. The tract will be curved. If the external opening is anterior to the transanal line, it is a direct tract, straight tract, and correctly on line with the external opening, you can palpate the internal opening. This is Goodsell's rule. Posterior fistulas will have a curved tract, internal opening will be midline posteriorly. Anterior tracts will be straight tracts. The internal opening and external opening are in the same line. That's the Goodsell's rule. And if you see multiple external openings says it is a long-standing fistula, years together, long-standing fistula with repeated episodes of closure and infection and repeated bursting. Second, it could be a tuberculous abscess, a specific cause. You must always try to identify the specific cause like tuberculosis, like Crohn's disease, like lymphogranuloma venereum, and the malignancy. So the relation of fistula with malignancy is two types. One, the anorectal malignancy can present as anal fistula. The colloid type of malignancy, Misch's type of malignancy, will present as anorectal fistula. Or long-standing anal fistula will develop malignancy. It will develop malignancy, squamous cell carcinoma. So two types of relations there between malignancy and the fistula. So this is the importance of examining the external opening. The location, the multiplicity, the position, all these things are important. Then the course of the primary tract. You put your index finger in the anal canal, put your thumb over the external opening and press the tissue in between. If there is a tract, you can feel the fibrosis, you can feel the induration, you can locate the tract, primary tract, where it is and how hard it is, induration. All these things can be known by trying to palpate the entire fistulous tract. Then the remaining area of the anal canal is palpated to identify the presence of secondary extensions. Secondary extensions are revealed by the areas of induration along the circumference of the anal canal. And you should look for presence of other conditions complicating the fistulas, like skin conditions, like specific diseases, all these things you must see. So while examining, you must try to locate the internal opening, observe the external opening features, try to palpate the course of the primary tract, search for the secondary extensions and other conditions complicating the fistula. So this is clinical examination is very important. It gives a lot of information. And supralevator induration says the primary tract is above the levators. If the indulation extends beyond the air ring, it says it is a supralevator fistula. So how to identify the internal opening is by applying the Goodsell's rule. It is felt as a point of induration, seen as enlarged papilla, or you can try the retrograde probing. This is usually done under the anesthesia while operating. You should not probe in an awake patient. It causes a lot of pain and discomfort. And you can inject dilute hydrogen peroxide into the external opening, and you can feel the gurgling or the gas in the anal canal, or do the ultrasound examination to identify this. This is retrograde probing. This is horseshoe fistula. Openings are present on either side. The tract will be posteriorly curved tract. Goodsell's rule: anterior fistula straight, posterior ones are curved. Goodsell's rule is fistulas with external opening in relation to anterior half of anus are of direct type. Posterior type of curved may be horseshoe fistulas. Posterior fistula often have multiple openings. They are more common. Common variety is posterior type. The investigations to confirm the fistula. Successful outcome is dependent on the accurate assessment of the fistula, the sphincter through which it passes, and patient expectations. You must locate the site and course of the fistula to get a good result after the surgical treatment. So this is one recent investigation which is done, endo-anal fistula, ultrasound. This will tell you about the sphincter integrity, whether the sphincter is normal or damaged. To identify, delineate the fistulous tract by injecting hydrogen peroxide. If there is any sepsis or a collection of pus is there, you can locate it. The gold standard investigation for anal fistula is the magnetic resonance imaging method, MRI scan, is the gold standard for fistula imaging. This will tell you the location topography of the fistula, where the fistula is present, or the sphincters are traversed or not, or there is any secondary communications or side tracks are there or not. Every information is given by this MRI scan. Being a costly investigation and so many contraindications are there for MRI scan, so this is usually reserved for difficult recurrent cases. Careful clinical examination with good history, you can identify the 95% of the fistulas. Only in recurrent cases, remaining difficult cases only you can go for MRI scan, though it is gold standard because it is very costly investigation and because there are so many contraindications. Patient should not have metal implants, cardiac pacemakers, all those things. Claustrophobia will be present in patients. All these limitations are there. So it is used only rarely. We can go for fistulography and CT scan, but this is also less useful than the MRI scan. This is the MRI scan demonstrating a primary tract. This is the primary tract. Lastly, coming to the management. The armamentarium we have got to treat the fistulas are fistulotomy, opening the fistulous tract, fistulectomy, excising the tract, lift, set-on application, advancement of the flaps, and other biological method. Lift is ligation of the intersphincteric fistulous tract. Ligation of intersphincteric fistulous tract, that's the expansion. Fistulotomy is developed by the John of Ardenne more than 600 years ago, the basic surgery. Wherever the fistulous tract is there, lay it open, it will heal. That's the principle of the fistulotomy. So if it is a transsphincteric fistula, you are forced to cut the sphincter also. So it may result in incontinence. That's why whenever you need to divide the sphincter muscle, only lower third of the sphincter must be divided. Lower third of the internal sphincter must be divided. It should not extend beyond the dentate line. These are the limitations. You must remember, whenever you are forced to cut the sphincter for fistulectomy or for fissure in sphincterotomy operation, you must cut the lower one-third of the internal sphincter, not beyond the dentate line at any cost. This is the fistulotomy probe, malleable probe. This can be bent in any direction. You pass this probe through the fistula, through the external opening along the tract, and cut all the tissues which are superficial to this. A malleable grooved fistula probe. You have to wipe up all the granulation tissue present in the fistulous tract. If at any point, if the granulation is not wiped out easily, means it is a secondary tract. Again, you have to pass the fistula probe through the secondary tract and lay it open. These are the pictures showing the fistulotomy. The probe has been passed from the external opening along the tract through the internal opening. The tract is being divided. All the granulation are curated out. And sometimes you may suture, you may marsupialize it, or you just leave it after controlling the bleeding, it will heal nicely. The second operation is fistulectomy, excision of all the fibrous tissues. You pour out the fistula by diathermic cautery and excise it from the external opening to the internal opening. This is possible in low anal fistulas. You can excise the complete fistula. In high fistulas, it is difficult. You are forced to cut the sphincter with a disadvantage. Another method is for high level fistulas is ligation of intersphincteric fistular tract. Lift procedure, ligation of the intersphincteric fistular tract. In transsphincteric fistulas, you open the intersphincteric plane between the muscles. Then identify the tract there, you ligate that and cut the fistula. So fistula is ligated and cut. Then the remaining lateral part of fistula is curated out, left for healing. So because you have ligated the fistula close to the internal opening, the fecal matter does not enter, no reinfection. It allows the time for the external fistula to heal. That is the principle of the lift procedure. The success rate is from 47% to 95%. Then you can apply set-ons, Ayurvedic method of set-ons. A medicated thread is passed through the external opening, tract and internal opening and is ligated. If you ligate, if you tie it loosely, it will act as a drain. If you tie it tightly, it will cut the tissues, cut the muscle slowly. Because the muscle is being divided slowly, the cut muscle will be healing and replaced by fibrous tissue. Gradually, just like inflammation. In inflammation, there will be edema and the fight between bacteria and the cells will be present. And at the same time, the repair process of fibrosis also will be present. both will be simultaneously happening. Likewise, here also, the cutting of the muscle, the healing of the muscle, both will be simultaneously occurring. So no incontinence results. No incontinence results in set-on application. This is the cutting set-on. This is the principle of the set-on. Sheath wiring through ice. So if you see this picture, over an ice mass, you put some wire and weight on either side. Because of the weight, the wire cuts through the ice. But when the wire passes down, the proximal ice will again freeze by itself. It will unite. You cannot divide the ice into two blocks because cutting and refusion simultaneously occurs. Likewise, the set-on cuts the muscle, muscle heals by itself slowly. So repeated applications of set-on are required. Every once a week, we will change the set-on till the entire fistulous tract heals. That is the principle of the set-on. Shara Sutra is nothing but a medicated thread. Some irritants or the set-on thread is soaked in some irritants which will enhance the cutting of the muscle and healing of the muscle. You can apply sick non-medicated thread also, but you can apply the Shara Sutra, the medicated thread also, anything. The principle is same. The recent advances are the advancement flap. So the internal opening is covered with vascularized mucomuscular flap. The exercise the fistula and internal opening is closed by a mucosa. So recontamination is not happening. The fistula heals by itself. The fistula is removed, mucus flap is raised. This is the opening of the fistula, internal opening, and it is covered with the muscle is closed and it is covered with the mucosa. So no internal opening, no contamination, and no recurrence of the fistula. Advancement flap. And biological agents. To avoid the disadvantage of fistulotomy and fistulectomy, you can pack the fistulous tract by fibrin glue. So you close the packet, you close the fistula by pushing fibrin glue in it, which will adhere to the wall of the fistula and prevents the re-entry of the fecal matter, which is prepared, or you can pack the fistula with the porcine submucosa and dermal collagen. You pack the fistula with something which is absorbable. As the fibrous tissue develops, fistula heals, this foreign material gets absorbed slowly and is removed from the body. So this completes the topic of fistula. Identification is important. And fistulotomy, fistulectomy, lift are the common procedures that are done for the anal fistulas, along with the treatment of the primary condition in secondary fistulas. The latest is advancement flap and fibrin glue packing of the fistulas. With this, we complete the topic. Thank you. Thank you, one and all. Tomorrow, we will talk about the other conditions.